Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to IBM Developer Online Meetup. This is our third webinar with Hair Technologies in the Tech at Home series. My name is Okar, and I'm a developer advocate at IBM and your host for today. Thank you for spending your time with us. As usual, we have two experts from Hair Technologies. We have Mohammed, who you can see on the screen. Hello, Mohammed.
Hi.
And then we have Vedhan in the background. We'll bring him on to show us some code at some point. As well, we have Faiz, who's a developer advocate at IBM, and he's joining as well. And together they'll take us through coding a mobile application using Hair APIs and IBM Cloud, and using things like React Native and a couple of other libraries that you might find interesting. So you'll get plenty of resources during this event to start working on your own mobile application, hopefully. The webinar is recorded, and the replay will be available immediately after the event ends. We'll also send you a link of the recording and all the resources in a follow-up email later today. Finally, if you want to be notified of future events, please follow IBM Developer. If you look on the top of the screen, you should see a follow button next to the IBM Developer logo, and you can click on that to be notified of future events. If you're new to IBM Developer, we are a team of developer advocates from across the world. We do online meetups, workshops. Hopefully, we'll go back to doing lunch and learns and other in-person education events soon. A couple of guidelines for the event today. So first of all, feel free to use the chat functionality to say hello, discuss topics relevant to this meetup, make some friends. If you have any questions, there is a Ask a Question button at the bottom you can use to ask a question. So that way your question doesn't get lost in the chat section. I've asked the speakers to keep an eye on the Ask a Question button, or I'll make sure I'll bring them up at the end of the webinar. Also, we do have a short survey we would very much like you to take. There's a button at the bottom of the screen that says survey. So at any point during the webinar or at the end, we'll remind you again if you could please take that survey and help us make these events even better for you. That'll be great. So with that being said, Mohammed, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever the place is. So today we'll go through introduction for Hair Technologies and IBM. So we have a few exercises, and like you can consider like a workshop that will go through the codes and some enhancement about the community collaborations tool. So all what we need is please get your laptop, your MacBook, get your coffee, tea ready, and enjoy the ride. Let me introduce myself. So my name is Mohammed Abdul Jalil. My colleague Vedhan, he will join us very quickly, as well as Faiz. Just put some name with the face. So Faiz Hassan, he's the cloud developer advocate at IBM. He's based in UAE. He will go through today the code for community collaborations and how to facilitate these type of things. It will be like a mobile app at the end. However, we'll have the full story with the backend and IBM Cloud. Vedhan, a senior developer evangelist. He's our guru when it comes to location services and technologies, and myself. So without getting into more details, so 2020 is a bit different. Yes, like I would assume it's challenging with the whole COVID situations and all the challenges that we have. Part of that, IBM, we have Call for Code. It's a global challenge trying to get your support, your innovations, your ideas, your creativity to help people with solutions and a lot of productivity and helping the governments. So please join us during that fight. It has two tracks. So one of them focused on the COVID-19 situations, the whole pandemic situations, and the second track for the climate change. So there is a lot of details. You can find it on the website. I think Faiz will give us some enlightenment. So please, can you give us some details? What's happening there?
Sure. Yeah. I think the slide is frozen on Join the Fight. If you could move over to the Call for Code slide, that would be great. But
yes, it is.
Okay, cool. So hello everyone. As Mohammed mentioned, my name is Faiz, and I'm a developer advocate at IBM. So I just want to go over a little bit about what Call for Code is. If you're joining us for the first time and you haven't heard of Call for Code before, Call for Code is basically a global challenge that calls on developers, data scientists, architects, designers, really anyone with any technical knowledge on designing applications to use that technical knowledge for some sort of social good. So this year is the third iteration of Call for Code. And this year's iteration started back in March, if I recall correctly. Basically, back then, our focus for the competition was around climate change. So basically, how can you get developers to create solutions that help mitigate the effects of climate change? And that's still there. That's still a challenge that we're doing. There's 3 focus areas within that challenge. They're water sustainability, energy sustainability, and disaster resiliency. But then seeing how the COVID-19 pandemic sort of went about its course and caused all this destruction, we added a second focus area for the challenge, which was around COVID-19. So basically, there's 3 focus areas in that challenge, which are crisis communication, remote education, and community cooperation. So given that people are working from home and studying from home, and basically regular routines have been disrupted, like we've put out this challenge to get developers to create apps that mitigate these negative effects. So we are in the last few days of the challenge. There's about 10 days left, but don't let that scare you. There's a lot of resources that you can use to get started working on this challenge. So if you go to callforcode.org, there's a number of different resources on there, including what we call starter kits, which are basically full end-to-end applications along with documentation and architecture diagrams and things like that. So if you're stuck on coming up with an idea but do still want to participate, you can go on callforcode.org, find a starter kit, and maybe then build on that to create your own solution. So the winner of this challenge gets a $200,000 cash prize, as well as support from the Linux Foundation to roll out these solutions and actually have them working in the communities that need them most. So yeah, that's a little bit about Call for Code. Back to you, Mohammed.
So in the next 10 days, I think if you still have a chance to have the 200 grands in cash, and also the continuous support from IBM to develop the solution or the end solutions. I think here technology, we are lucky with you guys to be part of the Catalyst sponsor. So part of this activities, we have this location services activity like the webinar, the sessions. You will have a lot of starter kit and also repositories and repos on the GitHub using location and technology. So just to go quickly on what we have and what you expect today. So why we are here, we'll have some hands-on quickly on what's next, and then the Q&A. If you have any questions, please jump in. So we have a quick slide.
Human stories around COVID-19, those of people helping people. Governments around the world work to address this pandemic on a macro scale. Developers have an opportunity to create critical solutions that will work at the community level to provide help where it's needed most. Technology can play a critical role in fostering community cooperation. This starter kit will put developers on the road to creating a mobile application that enables community-based cooperation in times of crisis. The application addresses local needs around food, equipment, and other potentially scarce resources. It would allow suppliers, such as stores or community members who have goods that they can sell, donate, or distribute, to make people aware of what they have. On the receiving end, this app would allow consumers or community organizations like hospitals or food banks to locate where these suppliers are and, if necessary, guide them to the appropriate locations to pick them up. Developers can use this application as a launchpad for creating more complex applications that provide additional services using widely available open source tools.
So in a simple format, we're trying to help you with a community cooperation tool. So the problem is quite very straightforward. So there is a big challenge with these days with the COVID-19, a lot of disasters, even the climate change from flooding and storms and everything. So how we can help you from technology perspective to figure out this way. So what we are doing today as part of the explanation, you will have a mobile, we'll have a web, cloud services with the backend implementations. we'll use a lot of technologies just to make sure that we are in a good shape. So we have the IBM Cloud and the IBM Watson. We'll do that based on the Node.js, using here APIs, positioning, routing, and maps. We'll also use the React Native as cross-platform tool, so it can help you to deploy easily on the mobile, be it an iOS or an Android. So the whole idea, as we have it on the video, again, very quickly, we don't need to go into more text, is to link between the supply and demand in a very simple format. So we'll help you with a Watson assistant, like a chatbot or a chat platform. It's enabled with the right technologies and the right tools, so you can help you eventually to develop the solution, not only the mobile app, but the solution itself from front end to back end. That's how it will look. So React Native is leading the front end, Cloud IBM with a Node.js and Cloud for the database, and the Watson assistant for the chat capability and the mobile interface. So, and that's how we expect as an output. Again, the information is there, is ready. So you will have the map, and part of this map, you will have all the action that you need, and also the direction or the supply points or the hospitals, for example, or people need some help and support with the COVID situations, or hospital supplies, for example. So this is how it should be looking, and I think we'll get more insights from Faiz on the coming minutes. So let me get the screen for you. So please, Faiz, can you give us more insights?
Sure. All right. So let me just share my screen. Okay. So I'm sharing my screen now. If at any point you lose my audio or you're not able to see my screen, do let me know. But for now, I'm assuming everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
So before I go into the hands-on, there are 2 links that, if they haven't been shared with you, will be shared with you right now on the chat. So the first one is around signing up for an IBM Cloud account. That's if you don't have one already. Yeah, that's the first link that Muhammad just sent. That's ibm.biz/here-technologies. So if you do already have an IBM Cloud account, you can simply sign into your account using that link. And then the second link is a link to the instructions for the starter kit that we're going to be looking at today. So with those 2, let me just open up a new tab on Chrome here. And before I get into the components or the architecture of the application, I thought I'd show you the application itself. So I have it open, running in an emulator over here. As the title says, this is an application for community collaboration. And as Muhammad explained, the application here assumes that given the situation that we were all either in right now or we're in recently, which is a quarantine/lockdown situation in the COVID-19 pandemic, you can imagine that's a disruption basically to a regular routine, and it makes it difficult for people to get a hold of essential goods and services. So things like food or maybe medicine. So the whole idea behind this application is, can we connect people who have maybe excess food, for example, to people who are looking for food because of like a disruption in the supply chain? So here's what the application looks like as soon as you open it. And another thing is, like, I'm not going to go into a detailed step-by-step deployment of this application, because I believe the tutorial that's shared in the chat does a good enough job of that. So you can just follow that if you want to deploy it yourself. But what we thought we'd do instead is give like a high-level overview of the application and what it's doing in the interest of time. So I have the application open over here. Once I launch it, I just get some information about the application, as well as these 2 buttons at the bottom, which are learn more and get the code, and those will take me back to the same link that was shared with you already. So the GitHub repo or the instructions for deploying the application. So that's just the basic home. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying nice. So it's a neat interface. I'm really excited to see what's happening there.
Right. So that's just the homepage. If we go into the second tab over here, that's donate, you can see that this is from the point of view of someone who has resources that they're able to donate. So let's just take food as an example. Let's say I have 1 quantity of baby milk formula, and that's what I want to donate to make available to anyone that's in my vicinity. So let's just add a baby milk formula. Oops. And let's say if you want to contact me, then you can contact me by my email. Let's just put in a dummy email over here. That's fayez@mail.com. And the description is baby milk formula available. Then, of course, the most important part is you want to broadcast, you want to advertise where this baby milk formula is available. So you can either default to your own location, or you can uncheck this and add in your own latitude and longitude. But for now, I'll just go with the default location. Another thing that I should mention is when you're deploying this application, the default location defaults to, I think, somewhere in San Francisco, because that's just, I think, where the authors wrote this application from. So when you are deploying it and you want to customize it to your own location, you will have to go in and do that. But for now, I'll just go with what comes with the code. So if I click on add.
And also the positioning technology can be triggered easily with this. So if you have the location, it will trigger from the positioning from the SDK that you have to get your location immediately with a longer line.
All right, so we can see that the item has been added. If I just click OK, and then go to My Donations, we can see, of course, there's many others that I added while playing around with this application, but we can see that the newest one is baby milk formula that I added at the top over here. So if I click on that, it does give me the option to update it. Maybe I want to change the quantity or the item itself, but I'm going to assume that it's fine the way it is for now. So now let's switch points of view to a person who is looking for baby milk formula. So a user of this application can come in and look for a certain resource, maybe a medicine or food or a mask or whatever it is they're looking for. So for that, let's go over to the search tab. And what we donated was food, which was baby milk formula. So in the menu over here, I can choose food and enter the name, which is baby milk formula. And I'm assuming that if I leave the name blank over here, then it will just show me all the food donations. But I'm going to specify a baby milk formula. So let me search for this. And we can see that it's available. And if I click on this, it takes me over to the map to the location where this donation is coming from. So you can see this might take a couple seconds to load, again, because it's in an emulator. But yeah, so once this does load, we can then click on the pin over here. I'll just give it a few more seconds to load. Yeah, and we can see the information about the donation. So you can see the name, description, and the contact of the person who you would have to contact to get it. But of course, given where we are, like our current location, we want to also be able to navigate to where this donation is available. So if I click on the menu on the top over here, in the top right corner, this then also gives me different options for how I can get to that donation. So if I click on maybe route 1, I have instructions for how to navigate over there, right? So that's one way of looking at donations that are available. Another way is, let's assume that many people start using this application, and once I go in the donation page, there's a whole list, and I don't want to go through the effort of filtering through it, and I just want to find what's maybe closest to me. So to filter through all of that, I can just click on the chat option that's in the top right. And let's say, where can I find baby milk formula? Now this chat has automatically gone through the entire list of donations available and found a location where baby milk formula is available. So it's honing in on the specific item that I'm asking for. And if I click on this location button in the chat, that'll then take me to the same location that we were looking at previously for the donation. So once again, this is just opening the map, and it'll give me some details about the donation as well as directions on how to get there. All right, I think it's taking a few seconds to load. Yes, here we go. So once again, I can see the description, the details of the donation, as well as directions on how to get there. So really, there's a few different components that we're looking at in this application. So if I jump into my browser and go into GitHub and open up the architecture diagram once again, this is the diagram that Mohammed was going through. So basically, there's the front end, the back end that are communicating with each other. But what I wanted to highlight was these two components down here. So that's Watson Assistant and Cloudant. Those are what we're using to get the information of the donations. So basically, Watson Assistant, I think this was covered in our previous webinar if you joined that one. But if you haven't, it's basically a chatbot service that exists on IBM Cloud. So let me start by going into my IBM Cloud dashboard. So if you followed the link that was shared a little earlier and you created an IBM Cloud account, you should be seeing a page like this once you log into it. Similarly, if you already had an account and you just signed into it using that link, you should also be seeing this dashboard. So if I go into here and I click on the catalog button, you might see a slightly different format or a different layout. That's because I've zoomed into my browser. So that might have moved things around, but if not, that's great. And then if I go into services in the catalog and scroll down here and select AI and machine learning, you'll see we have a bunch of different services that are available. So with the account that you just created, that's a light account, all of these services are available to you to try up to a limit. So these are available for free. Basically, there's Watson Assistant, which is the one we'll be looking at in a second. But there's also Watson Studio, which is our machine learning and data science platform. There's things like natural language translator, knowledge catalog, things like if you want to integrate applications for filtering through some text or annotating, creating a search engine within your applications, there are services for all of those that are available to you. So I would encourage you to go into your IBM Cloud account and play around with these services and see what's available to you. But for now, let's just focus on Watson Assistant. So I'll click on this tile over here. And then once you do click on this, if you're creating an instance for the first time, it'll just ask you some basic things to fill in, like selecting a region. Of course, you can select the one that's maybe closest to you. A plan. So assuming that you've just created a light account, you can go with the light plan. And you can give your service a name down here. And then click on create. I've already created one, so I won't be creating another one. In fact, I don't think it'll let me. If I click on create, oh, okay. I guess that worked. So I've created the Watson Assistant service. Now, of course, I click on this big blue button to launch it. And then I'll go into the Watson Assistant service itself. So just what I wanted to highlight over here was how you would create the assistant to be able to work as a chatbot within your application, and then how you can integrate it into your application. So these instructions are all available on the GitHub page for the tutorial. So if I just, never mind. Yeah, so if I just go over here and click create an assistant, I can maybe test assistant, maybe give it a name, and I'll skip the description for now and create this assistant. And then the next thing you want to do is add a dialogue skill. So a dialogue skill is basically the dialogue that your assistant will go through once it actually is integrated into your application. So if you've cloned the repo that was shared in the chat, you will see that the dialogue skill is available in that repo under the starterkit/assistant folder. So if I open this as just a JSON file with all of the different possible questions that I could ask the chatbot in my application, as well as their respective responses. So if I select this, this and add it to my dialogue skill in my assistant, I can do that by selecting import skill, then choose a JSON file, and select the JSON that's in the repo that I just cloned. So for that, I will go into starterkit/assistants, and then add that JSON over here. So if I click on import, that should then create the assistant for me. Then, of course, the last thing I want to do is to actually integrate it into my application. So for that, if I select View API Details, oh, whoops, sorry, I don't think it was here. Okay. Just a second. Yes. Okay, so if I click on the View API Details button, I should see my API key. And of course, you wouldn't want to share this with an audience, but this is, I'm just doing this for demo purposes. And also the workspace URL. I see that it's showing me an older workspace URL. I don't quite remember how to get the URL. But in any case, this is available to you, like the instructions for this will be available in the link that was shared in the chat. So once you do get your credentials, you can then just paste those in the application. So if you go under server app in your GitHub repo, and then modify the environment in the environment variables to include your URL, your ID, and your API key for the assistant that you would like to integrate into your application. So that's really how you would create a Watson Assistant service within your IBM Cloud account. Then, as I mentioned, if I go back to the architecture diagram over here, Watson Assistant is just the chatbot that would be integrated into your application. There's also a Cloud service. So Cloud is just the database where the donations that you make to this application are stored. So it's a document store, a lot like CouchDB. And that's just to have like a record of what's being donated in your application. So if I go back into IBM Cloud and go into my resource list, I already have an instance of this Cloud created. So if I go, actually, let me just search for it. Here we go, Cloud ML. That's the one I'm using in my application. So once I open that, I will get the option of navigating to a dashboard where I can see all of the activity that's taking place in my database. So if I click on this dashboard button, I can see that I have one database that's community DB. And if I go in here, I can see all of the donations that have been made. So if you remember in the application, there was a number of different donations already made before I added the baby milk formula. So those were all being fetched from the database. So if I click on this one over here, we can see that this is the one that we just added, baby milk formula, and along with the details of the location and the contact details and so on. So just like the Watson Assistant service, if I want to integrate this into my application, I can just go on service credentials. And it seems I don't have any credentials available yet. Let me just add one. So I'll call that service credentials 1. And then once I expand this, I can see my API key also, again, just like I did with Watson Assistant, and my username. So I think in the environment file where you will paste this, it's represented with another name, not username. I think it's called ID, but basically it maps to the same thing. So if I open up my environment file again, I can see these 2 lines at the bottom. Let me just zoom in here a little bit. So that's Cloud ID. That would be my username in my Cloud for my Cloud instance over here, and my API key, which would be up here. All right, so that's how you would integrate the database into your application, and then together those provide the sort of the backend functionality for the chatbot and the database. So with that, I think I'm pretty much done with the IBM Cloud Services part of it. Once I hand it back to Mohammed and Vidhan, we will see a little bit more about how you can fetch a here API key and use that to create to integrate the here services within your application. So Mohammed.
Thank you, Faiz. I hope you all are able to hear me properly. Okay, so hello everyone. I am Vidhan. I am Senior Developer Evangelist with Here Technologies, and I'll be explaining you how your backend application is working. So this application is basically divided into 2 parts. Let me share my screen. One, we have server side, which basically shows you what server is doing, and the server that we have created is a local host, and another part is your mobile application end, where we are creating a React Native mobile application which can work on both your Android and iOS. Now, before starting or before getting into the code, let me explain you how you can acquire the API key, which is required for your mobile application to fetch the content for the map from your server. What you need to do is you simply need to go to the link shared in the chat. Mohammed will be sharing it with you, which is a sign-up link. And it is a link to our developer portal, which is basically a one-stop shop for all your location services required needs. All you need to do is you need to provide few of the information, your first name, your last name, your company email, your password that you want to be for your login, and you have to check if you are a bot or not. And you will be able to create an account, which we call a freemium account, and you don't have to provide your card details or anything like that. Now, that is one of the very good feature that we have, is that you are able to use almost all our services, all our APIs, without providing any card details or without paying anything for 250,000 transactions every month. So that covers almost everything. So what you need to do is you simply need to sign in. I already have an account. Simply go to the login and pass on your credentials there and simply log in. It's taking a bit time. So once you log in, what you're going to see is you're going to see a project page. It's still loading for me. Just a sec, guys. Okay, so simply provide your user ID and password and simply click on sign in, and it's going to take you to a page which we called our project page, and there you'll have information about your project. So for you, it will be a freemium, and I have renamed my page or project as testing. Once you click on there, you will reach a screen which we call credential screen, where you get all the credentials, right? Whether you want to create a mobile application based on Android or iOS, or say you want to create a JavaScript base, or you want REST API key, you'll get everything here. And from here, you basically have to grab the API key. I already have an account and already have, I can click on this create API key, and it's going to create an API key for me. So basically, you can have two API keys for a freemium account and one project. You can use all the APIs or all the location services based requirement, and you'll have it there. Okay. Key. What you need to do is you simply need to go to your starter kit. Now, starter kit, if you browse it, you can use any IDE that you want. I'm using Visual Studio Code, and here simply you'll have your starter kit.
So I think we lost Vidhan.
Yeah.
Trying to reconnect.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
so
I think he's completely gone now. He'll come back. Mohammed, do you want to share your screen? And
Sure. So I will continue exactly on the way that he's looking for.
Perfect. Thank you.
So if you can see my screen, so trying to explain for the whole credential. So what we are trying to do.
Can you increase the font? Increase the font, please.
Yep.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
So for example, we have the JavaScript, we have the REST, we have the Here SDK for Android, iOS, and the Flutter. We have the premium SDK as well with all the offline capabilities and the voice guidance. In that case, you have the app ID, and then you can create the API key. This API key is mandatory in order to connect with IBM Cloud and the whole solution that we have. One of the things that you can use also, you can create a complete domain, like subdomain for your company, for example. But this is not our challenge at this point of time. Okay. So this is a very simple format. So what we're trying to do as part of the activities, we're trying to explain the whole routing technology. I think Vidhan he's planning to share some information behind us. So let me share with you what we are looking for.
Okay.
So yes.
I hope I'm audible now. So I kind of
Yes, you do.
dropped off in between. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm simply going to walk you through the code. Okay. Too many videos.
Okay. Okay. So let me stop sharing, please.
Yep. So let me take you to the starter kit that we have. This starter kit basically is a folder which contains 3 subfolders, which are main model on Watson. Then you have mobile app, and then lastly you have server app. I'm going to take you in 2 of these folders. One, the server app, although you don't need to do much changes in the server app because it's only hosting or starting the server, but still. So if you go into the lib folder, you'll find assistant.js and cloudin.js. So assistant.js is one of the file which should be of interest to you, because what it is doing is basically calling the Watson Assistant SDK and letting us get connected to Watson services. Okay, so whatever communication you're going to have with the server with the help of Watson chat, this is being handled by this particular code. And you can see that it is grabbing a lot of information, the information that Faiz shared with you, which he grabbed from the Watson platform. And these are the information which we are passing here. And what it does is it basically creates for you a session, and that session is persistent for your complete duration of interaction. Okay. Second file that we have is what we call Cloudint. Now, Cloudint is your database. What it does is basically it stores whatever information you are passing to your mobile application, and it lets you fetch it from that particular application. So these 2 files are of importance when you talk about server side. Now, let's move to the mobile application. Mobile application is basically a React native application. Okay, and you get a chance to create, or you get a chance to create a hybrid application which can run on both Android and iOS. Where do you want to go there, or where you should go there is basically
I think we lost him again, Mohammed.
Yeah, it's really hard to manage the internet connectivity with a lot of sharing and a lot of stuff. So
Yeah, so let's have you present, and maybe we can, since everybody's already got the GitHub link, right? Everybody's got the
yes.
GitHub link, so we can ask people to follow along there, and if it's possible for you to share your screen, and we can move on to maybe the slides portion and see if
Sure.
Vedant can come back. Thank you.
Awesome. So let me jump in. So what we have here, simply from location perspective, we have a bit of tools that can enable you. So we have some questions also for how they can use the here technology or here APIs. So in a simple format, here is doing location services. This is the main focus. And when I come to location services, it means how you can show the mapping, how you can use the geocoder and the search. Geocoder, it's a definition of when you search for places or for point of interest like restaurant, airport, cafe, it give you the name like Starbucks, Costa, whatever the name is, with an address. And this address has a special format like street, building numbers, even the PO box, phone numbers, the website, and the rest. and the coordinates, the long and lat. So that's how you are using the decoder and the search. Routing is give you the destination or the route between point A and point B. Traffic information, what's happening with the traffic, transit data if you're using the bus, metro station, or whatever. Geo visualizations. We have an awesome data hub tool that you can use it like a heat map, for example. One of the examples that we have is the COVID-19 updates. It's part of the weather.com, the IBM products, and also the indoor map along with outdoor map. How we consume the data? So we have the JavaScript, we have the web services, the RESTful command. We have also a native mobile SDK. When I say native SDK, is like a truly native mobile SDK that you can implement within your app. So eventually you can have a complete navigation experience, a complete activity when it comes to location services with map, search, routing, traffic information, transit data, geovisualization within your app. You don't need to jump to any other place. We have also a very cool feature, part of the mobile SDK is the offline capability, including also the positioning. So even if you go to the store, download your own app along with here SDK or mobile SDK, your customer or your end user can pull off the SIM card or even the Wi-Fi, the app will be functional. At least the mobile, the location mapping stuff will be functional. So he can search, he can route, he can navigate with a voice guidance and completely functional activities even without the internet connectivity. So today we have a bit of focus on the routing. So routing in a simple format is to destination. I think it's like this is the simple explanation to this. But how it become more complex and more usable for you. So one of the example, the way that we give you the instructions, like the voice guidance, we support 108 languages. I would assume it's all the spoken languages that we have. We have the distance, driving time, destination. We have up to 200 waypoint route. So for example, if you need to jump between 200 locations on same transaction or on the same API request, we can do this for you. We have all the routing option, car, pedestrian, bicycle, two-wheeler, transit mode for the intermodal. And when I talk about the two-wheeler, I mean the scooter and the e-scooter, for example, if you need to move around. We have the alternative routing. We have the fast and shortest route. The traffic information, it's either enabled or historical or real-time. We have a lot of options for this. One of the clear examples that we are using and working, for example, with the automotive. So if you need to have a fuel or energy, like an EV or e-scooter, for example, and we are able to connect to the meter or the battery meter on this unit, so we can give you what's the nearest petrol stations or the nearest EV station with all the right information that you need to have. One of the cool features is the traffic information. For sure, it depends on country to country. So for example, in my region, in UAE and Saudi, we have a full traffic data. In US, for sure, we have a full traffic data. The whole Europe, a lot of Asian countries, Singapore, Japan, we have a lot of information that you can use for the traffic. And the traffic, when I call it as a traffic, we have 3 elements out of it. So we have a clear real-time traffic, we have the historical traffic, and we have the predictive traffic, which is like what will happen in the future, and you start to plan around this one. One of the cool features that we have also is the ISO line. If you're lucky to attend the first session, we have a quick snapshot on the ISO line and what's the difference between the normal routing and the ISO line activity. So with the ISO line, we can use a very use case like the fuel or the electric or the EV activity. So for example, with the EV, if you have a vehicle and it's really short, so we'll have a truly distance around you. You can see this type of polygon, which is a truly distance or time to reach your destination. And then we'll select the nearest EV stations, and boom, you will have the routing immediately to this. And we are making sure the speed, the ascent, the descent, the traffic light, the few minutes on the traffic light have been calculated. If there is an extra consumption like air condition or charging, so we are considering all this as part of the APIs, and we'll give you the right route. One of the major capability of the routing is the matrix routing. So for the guys who's doing a daily logistics or delivery services or ride hailing, for example, they need to have this type of route matrix. So you have a lot of A's and B's in all the direction, and you need to do the whole calculation of the route. So with the matrix routing, we have a decent performance with 400 routes per second. And the matrix size, the one that you can have between your warehouse and the end destination, 15 by 100 and 100 by 1. And we have all the routing options ready. If you need to go in a mega scale, so we have the large scale matrix. It's way bigger than the normal matrix. So that's one is like super speedy. So we have 200,000 routes per second. And the matrix size, I would assume, is like an infinite, like it's 10K with an 10K. So for example, if in the morning we have a mega warehouse of Amazon or any hypermarkets, and you need to dispatch the whole products on the same day with 10,000 warehouse and 10,000 destination, you can do it in one shot with literally with a single transaction of an API. So we have the large scale matrix if you need to use it. One of the cool feature of the map as well is we understand the difference between the car space and the walking space for the pedestrian and bicycles. So for example, this is a use case for the park. If you are going with the car, you need to go in the border, while if you go in pedestrian or bicycle, you can cross the park easily to reach your destination. So you can differentiate the different way and the different routing that you need to have. Similar to this for the e-scooter, for the two-wheelers. So we have a product specified for this, mainly in Europe and US. So you can have like an e-scooter app, and you develop the routing algorithm for it on the dashboard of the routing on the e-scooter, or as a mobile application, for example, if you need to rent the application. So Vidhan, you still with me? Okay.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank God. Okay.
So do you need to add any tips and tricks for the routing?
So routing basically is just not about going from point A to point B. It involves a lot of things which are actually a bit complicated, but with the help of our APIs and services, you can actually make it fun and easy to use. Whether you're going by yourself on your foot, or you are taking your own vehicle, car, or you are going by a commercial vehicle, we can all, or we can define them all in a very nice way, which can be useful for your end task that you have aimed for.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think part of the questions that we need to ask is a lot of where and how and when. So these type of questions is very challenging with the modern technology. The whole location topic is, where is my asset? How I can track this mobile? How I can track this patient? How I can get my suppliers, like our use case with the community collaborations. So there's a lot of questions happening there with the location services. I would assume that we are shedding some lights out of this. Today, we had the session for the community collaboration tool. Thanks to Vidhan and Faiz, we have a lot of information. Next week, we still have one more session that we need to go with. So that next week, Tuesday, please join us with an AI meeting the location intelligence, like artificial intelligence meeting the location intelligence. I'm really amazed about the topic and how we can find the topic, the meeting point between these two technologies.
And it is going to be a workshop.
Awesome, even more. So it's like 2 hours session, right?
Almost, yes.
Yeah, great. So I think we need to get a double coffee for this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited about next one as well. So we'll look at, I think Pavat from IBM will join us. We'll look at visual recognition, how to use that with
Yes.
Hair API. So yeah, look forward to that. I'm sorry for the issues today, folks, the network and Wi-Fi issues, but hopefully you got something out of this. Again, the session's recorded, so if you were unable to hear or unable to see some of the slides, you can always come back and come to the same website in about 5 minutes or so, and you can see the replay there. I also okay, so Ramani is asking where to find the 214 session. Ramani, I'll send out an email right after with all of the different links. But basically, you see that in the link, it says part 3. Change that to a part 2 or a part 1. You'll go back to the previous session. So we've kept it really simple. But again, I'll make sure the email has the replay information of previous sessions as well as how to join the next one. So make sure you sign up for the next event, which is next Tuesday. Thank you, Mohammed, for pasting that link. And with that, I think I'll close this session. We are missing our third speaker, Faiz, because I can only allow a certain number of speakers to be on the screen. But Faiz, thank you very much. If you're listening, thank you very much for taking part today. And thank you, Mohammed and Madan, to you as well. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience, and stay safe. Have a good week.
Stay safe. Bye.
Oh, before I go, I think I don't know if I lost the speakers. There is the survey. Yes, Faiz, thank you. So, okay, great. So there is a survey button at the bottom. Please fill out the survey. Let us know how we can improve. The webinars, of course. If there's a network issue, it's kind of hard to get around that. But in terms of content and speakers, and if you want a certain topic, you can scan the QR code on the screen, as well as we have posted the survey link at the bottom of the screen. So yeah, that's all. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.